Hello everybody, welcome to my channel. If you have watched my previous video about Canada and how to survive living inside Canada after you get your immigration status, then this video is for you. I would like to talk about a lot of the people who go to Canada and then they don't find themselves adjusted or assimilated living in Canada, and they end up returning back to their original countries after getting their citizenship, or even before that. So let's deep dive into the topic today. As you all know, since the last 1 year, a lot of the Canadian citizens or immigrants, if you check social media or even the news articles these days, a lot of the people or the government immigration's numbers are leaving or returning back to their original countries. Now there are several factors for that, and the topic today is out of scope for that, because you have things like financial stability, social culture adjustments, and various other metrics that decide in the immigrant to return back to their original country. So I'm not going to discuss about that. What I will discuss is that how I made it in Canada, how I was successful in Canada, and how I excelled in a positive direction and thrived in Canada. And if you take 100 Canadian immigrants coming to Canada from various different countries around the globe, you will see like the happiness rate. I'm talking about like you see, you can come to Canada, but you might not be very happy. So I am like super happy. So that my views are different than the average Canadian. Like some people have told me like, yo Shaz, you were like even doing better than certain native Canadians who've been living there all their lives. And that's true. It's a fact. So the thing I'm going to discuss today is that can you make it to Canada and be happy or miserable happy, or just miserable? Oh my god. So we're going to talk about that. Now the first thing I'm going to talk and discuss is the most surprising and astonishing fact I learned when I boarded on the Emirates flight from Dubai to Canada, Toronto. It was a pretty huge plane. I believe it was an Airbus. I remember. Yeah, it was an Airbus, and it was fully packed, and everybody was like mostly like 95% of people were immigrants, and they were going to Canada for the first time, and few of them were returning, actual Canadians who were just returning from holidays. I happened to ask the air hostess. So the thing is, when we all disembarked from the Airbus at Pearson Airport, I realized one astonishing fact about myself versus the rest of those passengers. And what is that fact? Which is the reason for me excelling where I am today, and where certain people who came in that flight are wherever they are in their lives. I'm sure most of them are very happy as well, but that's another topic for another day. But nobody's more happier than I am. So the thing I'm trying to say is that when we went for our immigration check post, you know, at Pearson Airport, and you get your documents checked and verified, and then they allow you to come to inside Canada and blah blah blah, I realized I was the only passenger without a wife or a kid or kids. Wow! What does that mean? That means everybody on that Airbus flight to Toronto Pearson was married, they had 2 or 3 kids, and they got their immigration based on that they got married. So they didn't get their immigration because they were single. They got their immigration because they were married. And Canadian government wants people with kids, so those kids, when they grow up in Canada, they're going to make a better life, and the Canadian population statistics will thrive. I'm not saying that they don't give visas to, or immigration status, PR status, or refugee, whatever, to single blokes. The thing is, it is easier if you're married. So that flight taught me the moment I landed in Canada, I was the only one without a wife and kids. For better or worse. And then, during my 17 years in Canada, I lived my life as a single bachelor. I lived my life as a single working professional. I lived my life as a thriving individual, living a unique lifestyle that no one else has. Now, there's several reasons for that. I'm not going to get into that. But the main thing I have learned from Ontario Service Canada is that most people who land in Canada, whichever city, they do not leave within 30 miles radius of their landing in that city. So they are stuck in that city. They are bound within those boundary limits. Yeah, you can go for holiday for like 3 weeks, 4 weeks, and then come back to that original city for your job. So if you land in, for example, in Oshawa, in Ontario, and you get a job there, then rest of your life you're going to be like bound to that city, Oshawa, because hypothetically you're going to start a job, and once you start a job, you're going to buy a car, which is going to be on installments. If you buy a car, and you're going to buy a house, which is going to be on installments, mortgage, so etc, etc, etc. So by the time you retire at the end of your life, you will not have moved away from Oshawa. That is the point I'm making, which is pretty scary, because the kind of person I am, I'm a free bird. I can't even stay in one neighborhood for more than 6 months. I gotta move to another neighborhood within Toronto. That's just me. And this is a huge difference between me, the single guy, versus the family landing in Toronto. Because they've already done their investments, purchased expensive homes, cars, and they're bound with their monthly paycheck, month to month to month, for the rest of their lives, until the debt has been cleared. Because if you don't clear your debt, you can't just leave that area. That's the reality of Canada, or anywhere in the world, except for some other country. In Canada, if you don't clear your debt, like whatever mortgage, you can't leave for more than 1 month. You have to come back, because you have to pay those monthly payments. And if you don't make those monthly payments, the government within 2 months confiscates your property, and they don't give you anything back, or your investment. That's how serious this scenario is. And luckily, the things worked out with me. I never bought a house. I could have bought 2 houses in 17 years, maybe 3, maybe 4, but I didn't. And that is the reason why I am sitting in another country right now. Because I don't have any legal financial obligations to Canada in terms of mortgage, car installment payments, etc, etc. Like, all my bills are clear. So this is a big observation. Because if you're going to go to Canada and you get a job, most people don't get a job, but if you get a job, you're that lucky, then automatically, let's say, I'm going to give you an example. Let's say you make $100 in a month. And we're not saying that is the base standard. We're just making it as examples to make calculations a bit simpler. And if you're renting, $40 of that $100 is going to go to rent. Remaining is $60. You need a car, you need insurance, you need food, and you need extra expenses. So that take another $40. So $40 for rent, $20 for the car, insurance and food and blah blah blah, another $20. Remainder, you got $80 spent, you got only $20 left. Now, do you seriously think with that remaining $20 you can afford to get married? No, not in Canada. Because no human is going to get married on such a low amount of spare money. If you're going to bring another human who's going to be your spouse, you're going to need a salary of $200. So you have your $80 for your car insurance, food, and rent money, and then you have $120 because you're getting $200 paycheck for your wife. That's the point I'm making, or your kids, wife and kids. And if you have kids, then you can multiply that more and more. You need more money. Because the cost of living in Canada is very expensive. And to be honest, like for me as a single bloke living by myself, I found it hard to, even though I had great jobs. But because, yeah, maybe I'm spoiled. But the thing is, like, I had to, like, you know, sometimes cut corners. So you have to make those payments, and if you don't make your payment, and lucky for me, when I was in Canada, you know, a lot of my friends, some of my friends, they kept changing phone carriers. So they got like Rogers, then they changed, because that's the premium phone service. Then they got like Fido, and then something else, and so they kept like changing. I kept the same phone provider throughout my 17 years. So that's like I paid my bills on time, you know. So that's a pretty big thing, because a lot of people, they just default on phone bills and then they get a new phone line, you know, blah blah blah. I kept the same number throughout my life in 17 years, not my life, my 17 years in Canada. And also, during these 17 years, I never purchased one or two homes. Imagine if I bought two homes or one home even. I mean, the mortgage on that is like 33 years, you know, and you have to pay something like $3,000 per month. Yeah. So if you're making $5,000, you need to pay $3,000 for your mortgage. That's how expensive it is. So, and that goes for 30 years on a monthly basis. So you are bound. You're like landlocked. You know, like when you, what is landlocked? When countries don't have an ocean, harbor, or seaport, you are bound, dependent on other countries. So if you're, just to give an example. So as an individual, you're landlocked. You can't just fly away and get a 6 months vacation. And you know, I'm not complaining about the weather in Canada. Like, I have no problem with winter. I love winter. Actually, once I used to think about, like, you know, Canada's cold. This is before I was going, before I went there. It's like, oh, the weather's going to be. But when I went there, I experienced snow. I just loved the winter weather. It's like, with me, it's like I just love it. Every time I can't wait for the winter to come. For me, it's like the opposite. Most people, oh, they don't like winter. Me, I like summer, winter, tropical, whatever, you know, everything. So yeah, hellfire even. So the thing is, I got lucky in several ways, and a lot of people wouldn't have survived those couple of phases that I went through. And you know, that's what I mean by, if you buy a house, a car, you are bound by those minimum payments that you have to make on a monthly basis. And this is the reason why I'm able to fly out of Canada, and I'm sitting where I am sitting in another country, enjoying my life, and basically, you know, yeah, you know, it's pretty good. And a lot of people, you know, like if you see the news these days, it's all over the internet that a lot of people are just leaving Canada because they can't make minimum payments. It's getting more expensive by the hour. And yeah, I mean, you know, you have to go to the dollar store, you have to buy, you know, dollar food, you have to, sometimes you have to cut corners, seriously. So yeah, or you go, if you're lucky, you can go to No Frills all the time. Yeah, that's good too. That's amazing, actually. And or Food Basic. But basically, this is the thing. So you have to know where you are financially and how well, within your limits of finances, how well can you live and assimilate into Canadian society. And yeah, of course, you know, I'm a single person and I have my other LGBTQ lifestyle, so I'm on another level in Canada. But yeah, so that's the point I'm making, that, you know, if you want to survive in Canada, you gotta plan your life and you gotta calculate your finances and how well you can handle all the metrics that go in survival of Canada. And also the fact is that when I landed in Toronto, a lot of the people, like, they land in Saskatchewan, they land in BC, they land in Vancouver, which is a nice place, or Ottawa or Montreal. But I landed in Toronto because I'm a person from a big city. And I've always lived in big cities throughout my life. When I went for university in America, when I went to London. I lived in London, to be honest, straight up for like 8 years. You know, I was like awesome. It was like amazing. And then I came back to Toronto. So it's the New York City of Canada. So like for a single individual, it's the best thing that could happen to you. You know, you come and you land in the best part of Canada and you're like happening all the time. So yeah, things worked out really well. And maybe for some people it's not that. Some people like, you know, off-grid life. You know, they like to live in small towns. But yeah, for me, it just like it was. Everything was in a positive direction. And yeah, if you're watching this video, you know, click like, the hands icon, and if you want to see more of the videos, click the red subscribe button. Yeah, I don't know what else to add, guys. You know, you can check my Toronto playlist. You can check my Canada playlist. And I've got like all kinds of videos, lifestyle oriented, and you can, if you're going to Canada, you can see those videos. You can see, you know, what's a taste of the things that you're gonna see there. Check out my videos and take it from there. Well, I hope you've learned a thing or two from today's vlog, and I hope to see you again. And keep smiling until we meet again, and happy trails until then. Ta-da from Shadi.